Welcome back to Talking Shop. I'm Essence.
I'm Emily.
We are dropping new episodes on Mondays.
Every Monday, a weekly drop.
And our goal is to surpass the majority of people who stop after recording 7 episodes.
So if we make it to 8, we're throwing a party.
8 is great. We're probably not throwing a party, but maybe we'll do like a giveaway.
Yeah.
For our 3 fans.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, literally. If you're not one of them, let us know.
Yeah.
Because that'll boost our confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal with our podcast is that we're external processors. We learn a lot from collaboration and like communicating, not as much from just sitting and like writing.
Right.
And so we want to be able to process and have our conversations in a way that helps us to like learn and talk out our thoughts, but also that gives people new insights on the things that we're doing, the work that we're doing, and what we're seeing, both in like the therapy room and also in the organizational space.
Yeah. We have often what we call business meetings where we just sit and chat and often have some of our most brilliant ideas.
Literally.
And we often leave those meetings being like, wow, we probably should have recorded that.
Yeah.
Someone should have been taking notes.
We're like, that would have been really helpful if people could hear it, but we can't remember what we said.
So this is just as much for us as it is for our audience.
So we started a new segment last week where you're given 3 people, fictional or not.
From television of some kind.
You have 3 people, and you have to choose who out of those 3 people you would make your work wife, which is the person that, you know, your work spouse.
That's your work bestie.
You get to hang out, like, that's who you count on and who you talk to.
That's who you're saving a seat for in the meeting.
Yes. And then your work overlord.
Which is your boss.
The person that you report to.
The person who signs your paychecks.
Yes. Or that's between you and the person who signs your paychecks.
Possibly.
Because it'd be like that sometimes.
It does.
Shout out to the middle managers.
And then work Nemesis.
That is the person who you have beef with.
That one's pretty self-explanatory.
And they know about it or they don't.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have one-sided beef, and that's fine. It's fine to acknowledge, it's not fine to maintain. So, those are our options.
Okay.
You can go first.
Okay. We're big Below Deck fans. All of the iterations of Below Deck.
We don't discriminate.
We're here for all of them. So, I'm going to go with our 3 favorite chief stews.
Okay.
Aisha, Frasier, and Daisy.
I just love Aisha. Like, 10 out of 10. She's just a nice person. I think she's positive. She actually cares about the people that she's working with. And she has a nice balance of being able to give feedback, but not ruin the relationship. And I think that's hard to do.
Her brain works a lot.
Like mine.
Like your brain.
Yeah. So I would be tempted to make Aisha my work overlord, but I think at the end of the day, I would make Aisha my work wife. Because you can do anything if you have a good person by your side.
That is true.
Aww. I really like Daisy, but I do think that I am too sensitive for Daisy's management style. I know that about myself. So I think I'd probably make Daisy my nemesis.
Okay.
But not because I actually want to like have beef with her, but I do feel like if we work together, I would probably do some things that annoyed her. Okay. So it would happen inevitably. Might as well like name it.
Pop off, queen.
Okay. And then Frasier, I would make my work overlord because I feel like he is gentle, and honestly, sometimes he like struggles to give feedback, so he just holds his tongue. And I think like nobody really wants better. He has improved. But I think in terms of a person, you know, when you go to work and you just want to live your life, I don't really want feedback. So that would probably be my best chance for that.
Okay.
So that's how I would put it down.
Fair.
Okay. Okay. So as you can tell from my shirt, we love Bluey.
Love Bluey.
So I'm going to give you Bluey, Bingo, Muffin.
I love Muffin.
And if you haven't seen Bluey, what are you doing? Hang up right now.
Watch.
Not hang up.
Pause
this and go watch an episode of Bluey and then come back.
Preferably one with Muffin in it.
Yes.
Oh my god, I love Muffin. But I know Muffin would irritate me.
Oh, you're having thoughts.
I am.
Share them.
Okay. I think Bluey would be my nemesis.
What?
I think Bluey is so bossy. I think Bluey is bossy.
You just hate Bluey because Bluey's the oldest sibling.
No.
Of 2.
No. I think Bluey is still learning how to introspect. And I think Bluey does not realize the damage that she can do until after damage is done.
Okay.
And I think she has hurt Bingo's feelings a lot.
Bingo hurt Blue's feelings too, though.
I'm not saying Bingo is innocent.
Okay, carry on.
But I do think that Bluey has a need for control that would irritate me. Because I, too, possess that need. I think Muffin would be my work wife.
You?
Yeah.
If you don't know Emily in real life, Emily is, like, literally, like, I don't use this in a mean way. I love you very much, wife. But Emily is a goody two-shoes. Emily is going to follow the rules to a T. Muffin is like a walking tornado. So please help us understand.
Muffin is my you.
I'm not Muffin. Am I?
I feel like I wouldn't want a work wife who is very similar to me. I would want somebody who, like, balances me out. And I think you did a very good job of being a little chaotic in my life.
You just want it to be someone else. Like, you want to experience it, but you don't want to have to do it. Exactly. So Muffin would be a good work wife.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then that would make Bingo my overlord. Which, honestly, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I feel like Bingo would be a nice boss.
I feel like Bingo's sweet.
Yeah.
So, there you go. Bluey. I love you. Like, I love Bluey.
Dun, 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 dun.
I love Bluey. I just think Muffin's at the age where it's cute. Bluey's at the age where it starts to become less cute.
I'll be thinking about it for days.
What are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about... Da-na-na. Do you think we should add sound effects over these or just let them be me?
I think I like them being you.
I might spruce them up a bit.
Okay.
Today we're talking about trauma-informed care. So, trauma-informed care is part of the work that we do with organizations. We're working with a couple projects right now that are focused on trauma-informed care. Some of the places that we both have had our training have been either certified or really passionate about implementing trauma-informed care on an organizational level. And we've also had some experiences where we felt like the trauma-informed care as described on the poster that we walked by every day and trauma-informed care that we experienced in our interactions on an everyday level did not always match up.
I think trauma-informed care is a aspiration for a lot of organizations.
Well, what does it even mean? Trauma-informed. To me, it's like you can be informed of something via a billboard. Like, I know that Joe Dat guy exists. I don't know him. I don't know anything about him. I don't know his track record. I don't know, like, what that would look like to work with him. But I do know that he exists. And I feel like when we say trauma-informed, it's kind of like trauma, like somebody told you about this before.
Yeah, I think that is where a lot of organizations don't have the skill set to go beyond the acknowledgement that trauma exists. I think a lot of organizations, that's why I said, like, aspiration. Yeah. Is like, it's, the aspiration is to, like, fully integrate it into everything that you do and make sure that the systems are built to support and protect people who have different experiences. And the acknowledgement of the trauma piece is often where good intentions stop and you need the skill set to actually implement anything else. Like, you can be well-intended, be trauma-informed, and I think intention gets you to the acknowledgement that trauma is a universal experience.
Yeah, I think people recognize, and we can all kind of agree, you know, there's a lot of differences, but one of the things we can agree on is that trauma is not ideal for anyone's development.
What is trauma?
I'm glad you asked. The way that I teach trauma, you know, like in therapy sessions and stuff, is that trauma is any experience or event that fundamentally impacts the way that you see yourself, other people, in the world. And a lot of times those have to do with areas of things like safety, intimacy, control. Those are the ripple effect of a trauma.
Yeah, I describe it pretty similarly. For my clients, I always say trauma is anything that fundamentally changes the way that you view the world or yourself and how you interact with the world. And so it can be any experience that compromises a sense of safety or a long-held belief, changes the way that you view how people interact with you or how you interact with people. It could be any event. It doesn't have to be one of what we have popularized as a trauma experience. I think a lot of people, when they think about trauma, they think about exposure to violence of some kind. They think about a near-death experience, a health crisis, going to war, or a natural disaster. Those tend to be the big ones that people think about. But something that seemed relatively innocuous to me might be a trauma to you. And one definition doesn't cover the breadth of trauma experiences. But I've liked what you have said before, that trauma isn't entirely about the event, but trauma is about the event plus the follow-up of that event.
Like the impact of that event, yeah. I think it's really important that we differentiate between the criteria for PTSD and what a trauma is.
Yeah.
Because when we look at like the definition of post-traumatic stress disorder, which is how a lot of mental health professionals and probably trauma-informed care like trainers, that's the definition they would use, would be an actual or threatened experience where like your safety was compromised. And usually it's broken down into like a near-death experience, and people think of like war, or they think of like sexual assault. Then everything else that's not that kind of is like in a weird place.
Right.
And then things I think started to change with the discussion around adverse childhood experiences, like with Nadine Burke-Harris. If you haven't seen that TED Talk, we can link it in the show notes. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And so we started to recognize that things could happen before the age of 18 that would impact people. But the implication became that people that worked with children were really concerned about that. And if you didn't work with children, you got to chill.
Yeah. I think there is a difference in how a lot of people who were impacted by the ACEs study started to talk about trauma. That trauma could be experienced in living day-to-day life, and it could be a momentary thing, and you are expected to go back to living your daily life. And I think a lot of people think about the follow-up of a traumatic experience is like, oh, you're in the hospital, or like you're coming back from war and there's like this big shift, or you know, if you were sexually assaulted, then you're going and like being taken care of and interviewed by the police, but nobody talks about or really maybe pays attention to as much as like the trauma experiences of witnessing a car accident on the ride home and then continuing to have to drive.
It makes me think of that time when you were in college.
Yeah, I was driving home.
Trigger warning, suicide.
Yeah.
So if you're not into that or that is sensitive to you, then maybe fast forward like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So I was driving home one day through one of like the main areas on campus, and we had stopped at a stoplight or something, and I like heard this sound, and then the light turned green, and in my side view mirror, somebody had jumped off one of the parking garages to end their own lives, and they had hit the pavement, and that was the sound that I heard. I had watched people go over to try and help, and I didn't know what was best to stop traffic or to do whatever, and I just kept driving because I saw that somebody had gone over and people were calling 911. But nobody ever really talks about how that is a trauma.
It's a huge life event.
Yeah, it is one that sticks with you, and one that like you just kept going and living your day and had to follow up with. Like there's a lot of instances where we witness something traumatic or we are adjacent to a traumatic event, and we don't often talk about the impact of that.
Yeah, and I think those are the areas that like I always think about it that like if you design for the margins, then you'll get everybody else. There's a concept called the curb cut effect that basically highlights the accessibility of having like ramps on curbs. So like wheelchair users can access the sidewalk. And then it talks about and kind of points out that not only does that help wheelchair users, but it also helps people pushing strollers. It helps people that ride bikes. There's a lot of people that benefit from inclusive and accessible design. And I think that trauma, often the people that are centered are the people that fit the bill for what we expect out of trauma. Like veterans, at this point, I think most people, even around like 4th of July, there's a lot of messaging around the community about the impact of fireworks on veterans. So the people, and like if somebody has a sexual assault, there's like a recognition. I mean, there's like Law and Order SVU and like all these things where people are very clearly like showing that that is a thing and like life stops when you experience that.
Right.
But then it forgets all the people in the margins. And I think if we were able to flip it and look at the little t like complex traumas that occur, like micro traumas almost, and designed things and cultures and everything around that person, then everybody would benefit, including the people with the traumas that are the most recognizable.
I think a big part of mitigating the impact of traumatic events are building communities and systems where people can take some of the burden off of a person who has witnessed or gone through a traumatic event. And that system is good if there is enough capacity in the system to support the people. But if you have 10 people in a space and one of them just witnessed a horrific car accident, but the 9 other people are grappling with their own experiences, a reduced capacity because like they didn't have a support system to process something that they went through, that we start to lose access to things that would help buffer or mitigate the long-term impacts of trauma. It makes me think of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen it,
You can put it there.
We'll put it in the show notes too, so that you can take a look at it. But the idea is that with this hierarchy, it looks a lot like the food pyramid.
Very much like the food pyramid.
Very much like the food pyramid. And the idea is that we all, as humans, have like base needs that need to be met. And as you're able to meet certain needs, you're able to like work on higher level concepts. And so on the very bottom layer of the hierarchy is, are we eating?
It's like survival.
It's like survivals. Are we breathing? Are we eating?
Shelter.
Do we have a place to live? And do we have clothes on our body? And if you can do that, you go up to the next level of like secured housing, employment. If you're able to secure some of those things, you can go to like working on your friends and family and those relationships, mm-hmm. love and intimacy. And then you go up, you start working on your own self-concept, and then like the last idea of the hierarchy is self-actualization.
Which is like living your best life.
Can you be living like your best life and working on all these kind of like broad existential concepts? Mm-hmm. And if at any point one of those levels of the hierarchy is compromised, you have to go back and address and stabilize that level before you can go back to like where you were. So if I was at like self-actualization and my house burned down, I can't be at self-actualization until I go back and secure stable housing and recover from like that event. And when I think about like trauma, is like trauma partly comes from that event. Like we're not going to neglect the impact of like witnessing something horrific or something horrific happening to you. But I think what we view as like PTSD and kind of like the ripple effects of trauma experiences are how long it takes to stabilize those bottom levels of the hierarchy again. And that if I think community support and like having a really good support system and resources allows you to recover maybe a little bit quicker, allow you to stabilize some of those levels so that you can start processing what happened to you. It's the concept we talk about in therapy, which is if you and I are working on like a value system, but like you lose access to your SNAP benefits, mm-hmm. I'm not going to spend session talking about your value system when you're worried about how you're going to get groceries.
Right, it's invalidating.
We're going to go back and start working on those things. And I think trauma-informed care not only comes from acknowledging that trauma exists, but needs to focus on shoring up the support systems to mitigate the long-term impact of some of these mm-hmm. experiences.
One of the things that I think is wild, as I've thought about it over the years, is the concept of protective factors. And so basically what Emily was talking about with like the buffering and mitigating the impact, like we would call those protective factors in like the mental health world. But one of the things that I think is nuts, and I always have, is that a lot of times protective factors are individual. It's like, oh, they have reasons to live, or they have positive coping skills,
yeah,
or they have, you know, a job. And there's such an emphasis on it is on the individual to buffer the impact of traumatic experiences so that it doesn't like inconvenience people. Mm-hmm. It's like you can have trauma up until the point where it starts to inconvenience disrupt other people's lives, and then it's disruptive. Because we can say if there is a person, and I think it's also in how loud or how intense your processing of an event is. Mm-hmm. Because let's say that you have sudden loss, like a traumatic loss, and you go into work and you're like a little tearful, but like you do your work, everybody's going to be like, oh, like poor person, they're so sad. But if you go in and you're like, I don't want to do this. Like, what's the point of life? What are we even doing? Like, and you get like that, then people are like, oh my gosh, like they're going off the rails. And it's both are very reasonable responses to a trauma. But I think that when we talk about trauma-informed care, a lot of times we are only equipping or like even not even really equipping anybody to do anything, truthfully, but we are informing people of the most studied, not the most accurate responses some of the times.
Yeah. I think a big piece of a trauma-informed workplace is something that I think gets lost in translation a lot is like trauma-informed care is talked a lot about in client-facing words. Mm-hmm. Like the infrastructure is built up. Okay, how can we be trauma-informed for like the people that we're serving? And a missed translation of that is also how to make the organizational culture trauma-informed. And I think there's a lot of hesitancy that people have to being trauma-informed. Because it's easy to be a support system in some ways to somebody that you have a personal investment with. Like, it's easy to give people grace for somebody that you know and spend time with and do all those things, but this coworker that you see who shares a cubicle or is on the other side of the office, and then I think back to the example that you just gave of, okay, well, they're coming in and being disruptive. Like, is the system built up for you to have the capacity to give grace to somebody that you're maybe not interacting with on a day-to-day basis, or somebody who is not an essential part of your support system but is a part of your work culture?
Yeah. And we talk about, like, being trauma informed. I'm trying to think of how we talked about it previously when we were saying, oh, like, being trauma informed more recently has become kind of like the buzzword of things, and it's good. We all recognize that it's good, but we don't always, like, actually think about what that looks like in practice. Some people would say that if they just start screening for trauma, then like that's being trauma informed. But knowing a trauma exists and designing your organization around the potential that trauma has had on others are very, very different. We've been in places where you have like the posters on the wall that say like, oh, we like to give people a voice and we like to give them choice and we like to give them, these things. And then when you look at it, it's like the opportunity for them to like have a voice is like a feedback form, and that's it. But if you start talking back, or if you start cussing somebody out, or if a client starts doing something that breaks the rules or disrupts the status quo, like trauma informed care just stops right there.
I think you and I have talked about this before. The intent to be trauma informed gets you to the acknowledgement phase. So there needs to be a trauma informed culture within the workplace. The people that you're working with or working to serve have experienced trauma. That is as far as intent gets you. Everything else has to be very intentional, practical skills and structural support. Goodwill is a great place to start, and it does not build a trauma informed culture.
Yeah, and trauma informed means that those same principles and values that you establish work under pressure too.
I don't even like the name trauma.
I think it's stupid. I think I've heard people say maybe like trauma responsive, and that's close better. I still don't love it.
Yeah.
But I think that trauma informed is like a given when you have psychological safety. It fits under that umbrella. That if people feel safe to be who they are, as they are, express themselves, and not feel like they're or fear retaliation, like that is pretty close to what we would say was trauma informed care, or even mental health informed care as a whole. Would be like, we don't just say, oh yeah, you can talk about it and it's fine, or you can talk about it but now we're gonna like hate you and not ever like listen to you anymore, or you're gonna get fired because you're going through something. But it is like the belief not only that you will be like not retaliated against, but that you will actually be like embraced and supported as a result of your needs changing in a workplace. And I think sometimes that looks PTO, or that looks like signing a card and sending it or whatever, but I think we can do better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of space for growth to happen, and we don't want to minimize the effort that it takes to build a trauma-informed workplace.
No, but I think we can be efficient, right? Like we can say, guess what? Save money on the poster and do this instead.
Right.
I think we know there are things that we know work and there are things that we know don't work, but get attention. And if you are loud but not impactful, then it is a waste of time and resources.
Right. And I think as consultants, we'd much rather see inclusive policies over a certification.
Yeah.
Like, a trauma-informed certification is great if the training is solid, the people are bought in, and change happens from it. But at the end of the day, a piece of paper is just a piece of paper.
What are you certified in?
Right.
Oftentimes, those kinds of things are like, oh, yeah, you took a class. Like, we give certificates to the people that we work with so that they can use it for grants or whatever they want to do with it. I do think that there is something to be said for, like, the learning of the skills. But I think it's, like, wild that so many people will go to, like, a trauma-informed care, like, thing, and then they'll go back to their office and be screamed at by a boss or get yelled at for being behind. Like, those don't mix.
How many people will go to a trauma-informed care workshop or seminar or some kind of certification course, feel really like jazzed and empowered, and then walk back into their workplace, and within a day that zest is gone.
It's like, yeah, it sounded good when I had no stressors,
Right.
and I wasn't here with all these people, but now that I'm back, the system's not equipped to allow me to extend that grace or that kindness,
Right.
or that care, because I'm being pulled in too many directions.
And you go back to psychological safety, which is if you learn about these tools, if you learn about skills or like the need to make something trauma informed, and then you feel like you don't even have the voice to go to the higher up or like to create systemic change, then like it's gonna die off in that seminar.
Yeah, because you're too scared to point out the discrepancy. Like, hey, right. We're actually not trauma informed, and here's why. People aren't going for that.
I think we are pro trauma informed care when trauma informed care is something practical, inclusive, and systemic.
Yeah. And it is recognized that it's not like a one and done.
Right.
It's an ongoing project. And there are new things that are always coming out and that we're learning, and we have to adapt. That is a big part of being psychologically safe. It is a part of being trauma informed. It's a part of being innovative and effective, is being willing to be presented with new information and say, like, now that I know something, I can do better. Even if I didn't know it then, I'm not going to like sit here and be mad at me or, you know, anything like that. But once you know better, you should do better.
I think it goes back to the conversation that I have with a lot of my clients, and a conversation that I had at one point in grad school, which is like competence is 80%. Like competence in any realm of understanding is, can you grasp at least 80% of the content or the information? Can you, if you take a test, like 80% is competence. So like we are not looking for perfection. We are not looking for no mistakes, but we are looking for competence. It's the lesson that was taught when culture of humility was talked about in our classes, which like mastery should never be the expectation because we're never going to know everything, but competence is. And the idea of competence is also recognizing that while you have met that 80%, there's still 20% you don't know. And you need to be okay knowing that you are always going to hover around that 80%.
Okay, so maybe we should give some ideas of like what trauma informed care actually looks like, or what it feels like, what is not trauma informed care, and like how to recognize something that is not trauma informed. That might be, maybe we talk about what's not trauma informed, and then we can do like an episode on what it actually is.
So this is the doom and gloom.
Yeah, this is kind of bad vibes, but I think it's important. In order for you what it is, you have to also know what it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that we can grandfather in, but sometimes the best thing you can do to be a safer person is just stop doing unsafe things. If you are not adding anything, sometimes all it needs is time. But like if you continue to do, it's kind of like a fire that if you just leave a fire unattended, it could go everywhere, but it could also burn out on its own. Like you don't really know. The chances are, who knows. But if you continue to put fuel on the fire, even if somebody is sitting there and has a water hose trying to put it out, if I'm throwing gasoline, I'm not helping the matter at all. And sometimes the best thing we can do is just stop adding fuel and gain control of the situation.
Right. And one principle that I think you and I both operate by is we very rarely will ever tell people to stop doing something without giving them an alternative.
Yeah.
I guess is a first trauma informed.
Yeah, little baby neurodivergent essence hated this one because being told to stop something that is like, you know, especially if that's like my automatic inclination is to like do one thing. I don't know, here's one, like raising your hand, right? Like naturally for me as a human, if I think something, it's coming out of my mouth. And so a lot of times, you know, in school, they'd be like, stop talking out of turn, stop talking out of turn. But if you never teach somebody, hey, this is how you get your needs met, this is what you should do instead, raise your hand or wait until I'm talking or say, excuse me, or whatever it is, then I'm not clarifying or sharing the ideas that I have. And I'm also not learning and growing because you have told me to stop using the only tool I have to get my needs met.
Yeah, I think a policy that highlights a behavior you don't want to see
instead of what you do want.
It's the lesson I teach parents a lot of the time, which is like kids are a great example for how I think structure and expectations.
Listen, we're all just kids.
We haven't evolved that much. I think they are a great example because they are often unfiltered, and kids are excellent at getting their needs met. I very strongly hold the belief that no kid is manipulative. Kids are just excellent at getting their needs met,
Yeah.
and they have not fully learned how to discern effective and ineffective ways of getting their needs met.
That's our job as adults,
right,
is to teach people.
And one thing that I tell parents is that if your child is running and you tell them don't run, you have opened the door for a potential 1,000 other missed behaviors that they could not run, but sprinting's not running. They could crab walk,
Cartwheel.
They could cartwheel. They could hit the jog. They could walk at the slowest pace possible. Like, there's a lot of things that like they could be doing instead of that. But the whole goal of that command in the first place was we wanted them to walk.
And why did we want them to walk? Was to keep them safe.
And so if the command is please walk, we have now clarified our expectations, helped them understand the behavior that we want to see, and have opened the door for a conversation about why we would like to see them walking instead of running. But that conversation gets shut down in the immediate of don't run, because now we have criticized, now we have closed the door for a conversation, and we have provided no context. And we have opened the door for more correction and more negative feedback because we have not put a spotlight on the thing we would like to see.
So I guess one of the big principles, according to us, for trauma-informed care would be give people the tools they need to succeed.
Right.
Which sounds very simple, but evidently it is not. That if you are a person that is in a management position or a leadership position, and there are behaviors that you do not like, that are not working, right? Don't just pick it because you find it annoying.
Right.
But like, if you need this behavior to change, then you also should reflect on like, what is the behavior, what is the function of the behavior that they're engaging in right now? Like, why are they doing that? Are they doing that because they don't know that they should do something different? Are they doing that because it works? Like, if they keep annoying you, they get what they want, so like they're going to keep doing that. Thinking about what is the function of the behavior. Lateness might be one, that like you have a coworker that, or an employee that is constantly late. Before you're like, you need to be on time, what's wrong with you? Maybe we figure out like, wait, why are you late? Because maybe the reason that somebody's late is because they have to drop a kid off at school or something like that. And you're like, oh, okay, like you could help them find it, depending on what's important to you, you can help them find a daycare that opens earlier. You can problem solve time management and how to leave the house. You can change their hours in order to make sure that you're getting your full time of whatever it is that they're working. Like, there's so many solutions when we look at the function instead of the inconvenience.
It reminds me of, I was on Instagram, you know how they just throw random stuff onto your feed. There was a Chick-fil-A who was specifically hiring like parent shifts, and it was 10 to 4 or something like that.
It was 10 to 1.
10 to 1. So it was just like a small shift, but they were directly targeting it at parents who wanted to do something while their kid was at school, but still wanted to be able to drop their kid off, pick them up, and engage in like all the extracurricular activities. And I think that's a great example of like a trauma-informed workplace.
Yeah, they're designing for the barrier.
Right, they're designing for the things that like might cause problems, might cause stress, or like might keep people from like, I think trauma-informed care is a lot about preventing trauma. And I think that is a good example of where you have prevented maybe somebody losing access to stable housing, that you have made sure that they've kept their lights on that month by offering them that shift, and something that probably took somebody 5 minutes to think of, or a conversation to think of. It wasn't an expensive training. It wasn't a multi-day seminar, but it was the introduction of an offer or an opportunity that reduced barriers.
And I think reducing barriers to desired behaviors is a great way to get what you want. Like, I tell people this all the time when they're trying to like build habits, is if you are trying to, let's say, you're trying to stop smoking, and in your pocket you have a bunch of cigarettes and you don't have anything else, then the likelihood that when you get stressed you're going to reach for something helpful is unlikely. Because if I want to go and have a drink of water instead of smoking a cigarette, I have to get a cup, I have to find water, I have to do all that stuff. It's way more easier to just smoke. If we make it the easiest option to do the most effective thing, people are probably going to do it. Why? Because it's easy.
Yeah, I think another piece of what doesn't feel trauma-informed is the lack of connectedness amongst staff.
Say more.
I think if work doesn't feel like a place that, like, you can, I don't think exhale is fully the right word, but I'm not quite sure what word I want to throw in there yet.
Where you can not be in fight or flight.
I think that's a good place to start. I think if there is an expectation of safety and that you know who your coworkers are, even if you don't have a deep, close relationship with all of them, I think if you know what everyone's role is, there's clarity around roles, there's clarity around who to go to if you need something, and there's safety that, like, you don't have to worry about who's sitting in the break room, that, like, you could go and eat lunch with just about anybody, whether you know you can have a conversation or not, that, like, if there's not an understanding of, like, who you're working with or who you're occupying the space with, I don't think a space is safe.
Yeah, I wonder if that is also like the ability to be present because I mean, we've all been in situations that we just don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And I think that if work always feels like something that you are dreading, that you don't want to go to, or even if like you're a person that is seeking services somewhere and it always feels like, oh, I have to do this again. I have to go be around these people that don't even care about me or don't know anything about me, or I have to go be a different version of myself, or I have to cry in the car before I walk in for my shift. Like, you are going to have a really hard time being present, which is going to cut down on your ability to make connections, have good ideas, solve problems, because your head is split between two different places.
Yeah.
Where if you can walk in and just be and acknowledge the barriers that might stop you from being present, even just talking about it sometimes gets it out.
Mm-hmm.
Some mornings we'll have a 10-minute conversation when there's stuff on our mind, and that is enough for me to clear my brain, enough to do the day, because I know that I've shared it with somebody, so it's not just mine. We're both on the solution, we're both thinking about it, we're both going to work on it and come up with some way to make my life easier, and I have faith that will actually happen.
Right.
And that's another one, I think, follow through.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, you can say the right things in the moment, and like, that's dope. Like, I think that's important. And I would almost rather have somebody have a bad reaction the first and come back with a real
good follow-up,
actual follow-up,
yeah,
than I would you have an amazing reaction but never do anything about it.
Yeah. I think people underestimate the value of feeling seen, heard, and understood.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, if you can just take 30 seconds to listen to somebody, to validate, or even, you know, just reiterate what you were hearing from them, I think people don't understand the long-term impact that has on creating a sense of safety.
Yeah. And, like, the person, like, seeing and validating the human that's in front of you, not the problem. I think especially when we're used to working in like high stress situations or environments, we get so used to looking for a problem to be solved. And that's not always what people need.
Right.
And so I think if you can, that's for everybody, if everybody can kind of slow down a little bit and recognize the importance of investing in the humans around you, then you could see that, okay, maybe you have to miss a meeting to comfort your employee. But guess what? Now you don't have to find a replacement for them.
Right.
You don't have to lose money by replacing. You have gained a person that is going to be loyal to you because you're there for them.
Right.
And sometimes I don't think that investing in people is ever going to be something that you regret in the long term. Like, I think that that doesn't mean that we invest in people because we have a motive to get something out of it. But it's very rare that you're showing grace, kindness, and love to somebody and they're like, I don't care.
I think investment is a spectrum too.
Yeah.
That, like, investment doesn't mean like you are locked in 100% and like you are investing everything into every single person.
Sometimes it's just not being a jerk.
Right. It's hitting the pause button, allowing for moments of grace, or like doing your best to assume the best of somebody goes a long way, even if you're not perfect in executing it.
Yeah. Another one I can think of is self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I think that it is not, if people do not understand their impact on others, and that is the others like immediately in their vicinity and also the people that are indirectly impacted by the choices that they make, then you're not trauma informed. Because if I go and, you know, I'm working and I have an assistant, let's say, and I scream at them and then I move on with my life, I'm not reflecting on, well, what would that stress do to their downtime? Now they're going to go home and probably be frustrated or on edge with their families. And then they're not going to have a recharging evening, and they're going to come back the next day and maybe make more mistakes. Why? Because I didn't take 5 seconds to think, like, hey, I have a problem, but how do I do this in a way that makes us better?
Yeah.
Not, in a way that makes this person realize that they're the problem.
I think intent versus impact is a very important concept that might be worth talking about more in depth.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole
episode on that.
For real.
I think so. The ability to introspect is a skill that needs to be developed. That it is not an innate skill.
Yeah.
And if we don't take the time or teach people how to do it, there's a lot of missed opportunities for that self-awareness piece to come in.
I don't know how long this is.
I think we're almost at an hour.
Yeah, which is pretty long for us, but
yeah.
I think we could, maybe we talk until we're out of ideas, because we could always do a part 2.
I feel like this is pretty good.
Well, I have one more idea, at least.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think another one is that is pretty characteristic of like a not safe work environment, or really anywhere, is when we start to put policy or like our expectations over people. As somebody that is neurodivergent, and I work with a lot of people that are neurodivergent, there are policies that are in place that don't really have a function in a lot of places. I think one that comes up a lot with my clients is emailing and the importance of email etiquette or whatever it is. And the point of email, right, is to communicate from point A to point B. I have information, you're not in front of me, I need to get it to you, whatever. And I have so many people that have talked about the overwhelm that they feel with sending an email, because they're afraid that the way that they present information is not going to land with the person that is receiving it, because there is an expectation and like a box of what counts as professional or what counts as acceptable. And I think that when we start to define this narrow expectation of what it looks like, and then we penalize people that do not fit into that box, we're not accepting the full person. And like, you cannot be choosy about what parts of an individual you accept and then also call yourself trauma informed.
Yeah. I think another thing that came up when you brought up this concept is, I can't tell you how many people I see on a weekly basis who talk about how they feel like key performance indicators are prioritized over their well-being.
Yeah.
And I think we lose the humanity in a lot of the work that we do because we pay attention. Like, and I think the performance indicators are important. They get funding. I think like we can't neglect the reason that a lot of these things exist.
Yeah, money's fake.
It's a whole different thing. I think like it gets people funding. It ensures like programs stay accessible. I think there's a lot of good that can be done by having data. And I think if we lose the humanity behind the data, if we don't pay attention to like how it's impacting people, how it's taking up time that they could be doing other work, how it is impacting client-facing work, that a lot of the times that we prioritize the numbers and we lose the story or the humanity behind those numbers, and that is not trauma-informed. Because the whole point of trauma-informed is we recognize the humanity of the people that we are working with, and that everybody's bringing their own stuff to the table. But if we boil everything down to a number, we lose the whole intention behind it.
Yeah, like trauma-informed care involves designing around the relationship and the humanity of individuals and what that looks like across the board.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a story, then we can do our reports.
Okay.
So I have a gazillion health issues, and so we go to a lot of doctor's appointments. And a couple months ago now, I think, we went to one of my appointments, and when we went to check in, there was an older gentleman that did not speak English. Like, I don't think he really spoke English at all, and was having some trouble communicating with the receptionist. And the receptionist their statement was, we don't take your insurance anymore. And we tried to call you and let you know that your appointment was going to be canceled because we don't take your insurance and that you would need to find a new provider. But this individual did not speak English, so who knows if they actually left a voicemail. But on the voicemail, if they left the voicemail in English, he wasn't going to understand it because he does not speak English. And so he was there, and she was getting increasingly frustrated with him for not understanding, because she had like a line of people. And I get it, right? Like, I have worked in roles where there is a line of people and they're relying on me. It is stressful. It is overwhelming. But I really felt like this day I was getting like angry. I think we both were getting like really frustrated because I felt like she had lost the plot.
Yeah.
Like, in this healthcare office where your job is to make sure that people can live longer, healthier lives, you are essentially yelling at this man that he needs to leave and get out of your face because you have a long line, and he doesn't understand, and you're getting mad at him. When we don't think about the people that are impacted by these policies that we develop, or we develop policies that are so strict that they don't allow for anybody that deviates from what you expected to see.
Well, you don't have a system built in for everybody. I think like that,
and you never will.
Well, it's a failure to like back the receptionist, and a failure to have like translator services accessible, or to have a way to, like the proper training for her to be able to like pull out Google Translate. And
Yeah.
I think like that it's a failure of the training, it's a failure of the system, it's a failure of like everybody in that room's ability to like support. Like she's not the only one working. There's other people there. I think that is it. It's a good example that the system was not set up to work for everybody, or the system was only set up to work for the best case scenario, which is the person came in, had insurance, and spoke English.
And I think that trauma-informed policy design and organizational design and all of the things as a whole, like at its core, is not do these things and everything will be good. But it is a lens that you can use to assess a situation and decide how to respond accordingly. And so it allows you to reflect on what is the problem without taking it personal. Right. It allows you to attune with the individual in front of you and not make them feel rejected or hurt or inconvenient or whatever.
Right.
It allows you to see what they need in that situation and meet the need to the best of your ability, and not perceive different as a threat, but an opportunity to like use the skills. And I think when we talk about trauma-informed care, can we learn? We can learn because we learned because we had to. How do we learn, and what does it look like when you are able to meet the needs of anybody that is in front of you in a way that is kind and compassionate, whether that is your boss, your employee, your coworker, your neighbor that you can't stand, like anybody in our community.
Right.
If you can learn how to do that and manage how you interact with people, then you're going to be okay.
Trauma-informed is a mentality, not a policy. It's the same lesson I teach people when I teach them to do exposure to treat their OCD, which is like you have to go live an exposure-based lifestyle. That it is not a one-time treatment, but it is fundamentally how you go live your life. And I think being trauma-informed or psychologically safe, it's a mentality. It's not something you can write into policy and hope for the best. It is truly a way of life that you have to adopt.
Yeah. And so if anything that we said resonated with you, we are open to working with different organizations. Yeah. We have a variety of levels of things that we're open to doing because we know that everybody has different needs. Different needs and different roles within where you work. So if you are in leadership, then you could probably take this and just run with it. But if you're an individual who is not necessarily in a position where you can control other people's behaviors, but you want to do different, like you can still make a change. Yeah. And make your impact on your organization more trauma-informed, and be like an advocate for the people and for yourself, because it's okay to advocate for yourself if a situation sucks. That's, I guess, part one of trauma-informed care. We will yap about this often.
We will. That is our whole entire life. Yeah. Are you ready to get into the weekly report?
Yes. Weekly report. So it's an acronym. The R stands for what we're reading. The E stands for what we're eating. The A stands for what we're... Why did I say... I was spelling reading. The P stands for playing. O stands for... R stands for playing. And T stands for... So we're going to go through our reports, and then we're going to be done.
Yes. What are you reading this week?
Actually, I finished my book last time, and I didn't pick up a new one this week. I don't know why. But I have been reading a lot of articles on how to code, like website coding, partly because we're poor necessity, and we need to revamp that website, and somebody's got to do it, but partly also because I want to keep learning things. Yeah. And so that's something that I found, like a couple websites stuff that I have actually like learned a decent amount. Yeah. That's my reading.
Love. My reading is all my continuing education course.
When?
In my gaps.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
Every 2 years we have to renew our license.
And it's the year.
So I've been reading my continuing education. If you have questions about telemedicine,
Yeah.
you let me know.
Yeah.
Or preventing medical errors.
Yep. We got it. And I think we took different courses, so we have double the knowledge.
Slay. Eating. We made French onion soup last night.
That was my eating. I woke up yesterday. I don't really know what one of my many anomalies in terms of health is that sometimes food just sounds bad. I think it's R.E.P.O.R.T, but I don't know. That's a whole other thing. And so Friday, I had one of those days where it good. And so I woke up yesterday morning and I was like, wow, French onion soup sounds banger. Where the craving came from, couldn't tell you. But
you're probably low on salt.
Yeah, that's probably it.
No.
We cracked the code. So, eating French onion soup.
We made it was so good.
I think we said soup last week too, or 2 weeks ago. I don't know, guys. I like soup.
Once every 2 weeks we're making soup.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Playing. Good question.
Can't say mahjong anymore, so now what?
I'm playing so much mahjong. I don't know if I played this week.
Oh, the week's not over.
That's true.
So what are you going to do that's play?
I play with Monty.
Okay.
Yeah. We played with our dog.
Yeah. Last night.
Yeah.
He was demanding of attention.
That he was.
My playing. Still on arts and crafts always. I started like hemming some pants and I was like, I'm taking a pause. But yesterday I broke out some of my like collage things, and then I've also been hanging things up kind of around here. I want to decorate this wall a little bit more. So still arts and crafts, just different flavors. Obsessing. Oh gosh, what have I been obsessing over? So right now I am kind of in a little rabbit hole. I'm taking it slow, but looking into the voodoo religion,
the origins
of it, because I realized that I had some like shared, like that
ancestry.
Yes, that's the word. So my ancestry came from the parts of West Africa that were enslaved and then brought voodoo to the U.S. Emily watched a video, and that kind of started me thinking and looking into it. So I think kind of understanding more of like my culture and my ancestry, because when you have African American lineage, it's really hard to know where you're from and like what those traditions would look like. And so I am hoping to learn more.
I am obsessing with getting our dog to stop digging the hole in the one spot in the yard. Yes. He's digging in. He's trying to burrow under the fence. I don't know what the issue is. I keep filling in the hole.
Told you.
He keeps
digging.
I know. So that's my obsession. Yeah. Right now, is trying to get that behavior to stop.
That's a lot.
Recommending.
I went to the chiropractor again, which I recommended a few weeks ago, and I asked him, like, every time I would go and do something, like be in the car or lay on the couch, then I would undo all of the work that I had done in my appointments that week. So I asked him, like, what can I do? And he suggested that I buy this $25 lumbar pillow from their office. And I said, okay. And I used it this week, and I took it in the car, used it at my desk, and it has worked wonders.
Game changer.
So if your hips, back, whatever hurts, you might need a lumbar pillow.
Yeah.
And it looks like this, if you're watching the video. Yay. This is not sponsored, but if it was, it's from the original Mackenzie.
Amazing. Should I tag them? You can. Recommending. We went and got acupuncture for the first time.
Well, it wasn't your first time.
Well, I had done it like when I was in high school, but would recommend acupuncture.
I'm still deciding how I feel about it, but the acupuncturist informed us that usually if you've done it before, it has more immediate effects than if you're doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Treating.
Oh, I'll tell you. There is a store where we live that is, it's farmers market. It's very like good food. It's called Detweiler's. And we were having one of our friends come over for breakfast today that lives out of state and was in town. And I really like can't eat the super sweet things because it makes me unwell. But we got, what were they? Sticky buns?
Maple pecan sticky buns.
And it was so good. I cannot even, like, delish. So that is my treating.
I've been treating myself with apples, peanut butter, and chocolate chips.
Has that been your snack?
A little bit, yeah.
I was wondering where you were getting popcorn.
We don't have any in the house.
I know.
I ran
That's
out.
why I was confused.
Yeah.
Usually, for the past like 2 years, since we've been working from home, would have popcorn and M&Ms every day at like 2:30, between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Depending on how the schedule shook out. So now you're switching.
Well, we don't have any popcorn in the house, so that's been
We've been to the
making
store like
good.
7 times.
I know, I just keep forgetting.
Oh, we'll add it to the list.
Yeah, apples, peanut butter, and some chocolate chips. It's been delicious.
You're so close to apple nachos.
I know.
Oh, love apple nachos.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's our weekly report. Hopefully you learned something.
Throw yours in the comments.
Oh well. Better luck next time.
Yeah. If you have a report that you would like to give us,
recommend stuff.
Let us know.
Oh, another thing that I was looking at, I guess it was recommending. So on TikTok, this girl said that before she buys anything, she always goes on the Buy It for Life Reddit. We're going to start doing that. So if you have something that you bought once and you will never veer from, those are especially things that we want recommended.
Oh.
This economy is wild, guys.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.